The sky burned, not in the way it did during wildfires or meteor showers, but with a cold, unnatural fire, pulsing beams of violet and green slicing through cities like scalpels. The first impact hit New Delhi, then Sao Paulo, then Tokyo. No demands, no warnings, just destruction. Within hours, every major city on Earth had seen the same terrifying sight: sleek obsidian ships hovering silently before unleashing hell. Governments scrambled to respond, but their weapons barely scratched the alien hulls. Missiles vanished in bursts of shimmering energy. Fighter jets were swatted from the sky like gnats. Entire military bases blinked out of existence under focused beams of light that turned concrete to vapor and steel to slag. Panic spread faster than the fires consuming the world's skyline. News anchors shouted over each other, trying to make sense of what was happening. Social media exploded with footage, some real, some fake, but all carrying the same message: we are not ready for this. Refugees flooded highways, fleeing inland, north, south, anywhere the ships weren't. Hospitals overflowed with the wounded, many suffering from injuries no doctor could explain. Skin charred without burns, bodies frozen mid-motion like statues caught in time. Scientists tried to analyze the energy signatures. Linguists tried to decode the alien signals. Politicians tried to reassure their people. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. Humanity was being judged and found wanting. Then came the voice. Cold, synthetic, broadcast across every radio frequency, every television channel, every satellite signal. Your species does not meet survival criteria. That was it. No explanation. No mercy. Just a verdict delivered like an algorithm spitting out a death sentence. And then silence. The ships stopped moving. They just hovered, watching, waiting, as if they expected humans to surrender, to kneel, to vanish quietly into extinction. But something else was stirring beneath the fear. In underground labs, rogue scientists worked through the night, cross-referencing data from different countries, sharing findings in secret forums. Hackers rerouted power grids, reran simulations, searched for patterns in the aliens' attacks. Soldiers who had lost their units formed resistance cells, gathering weapons, training civilians, preparing for a war no one thought possible. In basements and bunkers, engineers reverse-engineered wreckage, pulling fragments of alien tech from smoldering craters. One thing became clear: these beings weren't invincible. Their shields flickered at certain frequencies. Their drones followed predictable paths. Their energy weapons needed cooldown cycles. And most importantly, they underestimated humans. Because while the aliens calculated probabilities and survival metrics, they failed to account for something deeply human: resilience. The ability to adapt, to learn, to fight back even when the odds were impossible. Across the globe, individuals began connecting, not through governments, but through necessity. A hacker in Berlin shared decryption keys with a physicist in Mumbai. A former naval officer coordinated defense strategies with rebels in Jakarta. Every piece of knowledge, every small victory, was passed along like a torch lighting the dark. And slowly, the fear began to shift. It wasn't gone, it couldn't be. But now it had a purpose. People weren't just surviving anymore. They were planning, organizing, preparing to strike back. Because the aliens may have come expecting submission, but they were about to learn a hard lesson. Humans don't go quietly. It started with a signal. A single, repeating burst of data intercepted by a group of independent researchers in Tokyo. At first, it looked like noise, random interference from the alien ships still hovering over Earth cities. But when cross-referenced with similar signals picked up in Sao Paulo and Nairobi, a pattern emerged. The aliens weren't just broadcasting, they were communicating. And more importantly, they were vulnerable. By the time the third match was confirmed, a decentralized network had already formed. No one owned it. No one led it. It was simply there, a global web of scientists, engineers, hackers, and soldiers who had decided that if their governments wouldn't fight back, they would. In Nairobi, a team of biologists discovered traces of organic material in the wreckage of an alien drone. wasn't just machine, it was hybrid tech, part synthetic, part living tissue. That meant weaknesses, vulnerabilities, possibilities. Meanwhile, in Moscow, a group of rogue hackers infiltrated a compromised satellite feed and caught something no one else had: a delay. The alien drones didn't operate autonomously. They received commands, and those commands had latency. Millisecond delays, but delays nonetheless. That meant they could be disrupted, spoofed, controlled. Within hours, modified code was being tested across hidden servers, each version designed to confuse, misdirect, or shut down alien systems remotely. In Berlin, a former military strategist coordinated with underground cells in Paris, Cairo, and Seoul. Civilians were being trained, not as soldiers, not yet, but as operators, scouts, communicators. Every city that had been hit became a battlefield for information. Every piece of alien tech recovered was dissected, studied, repurposed. A weapons engineer in Tehran reverse-engineered an energy weapon fragment and built a prototype EMP device small enough to fit in a backpack. A university lab in Cape Town synthesized a compound that reacted violently with alien hull material. Then came the first real victory. A coordinated test in Paris. A hacked drone, disguised as alien tech, flew undetected into a hostile zone. Seconds later, the alien shield protecting a nearby ship flickered, just long enough for a ground-based railgun, cobbled together from scavenged parts, to fire. The shot connected. The ship staggered. It didn't fall, but it reacted. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity proved it could hurt them. The message spread like wildfire, not through news channels. Those were mostly dead or controlled, but through encrypted networks, whispered transmissions, and handwritten notes passed between survivors. The aliens were not gods. They were not unstoppable. They made mistakes. They had limits. And most importantly, they did not expect this. A species so fractured, so chaotic, rising not under a single banner, but as 1,000 sparks igniting at once. And the world began to change. Borders blurred. Old rivalries faded. Where governments hesitated, people acted. A hacker in Jakarta shared decryption keys with a physicist in Santiago. A former pilot in Sydney coordinated with resistance fighters in Lagos. Every success, no matter how small, was a signal flare. Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore. It was evolving, learning, adapting. Because while the aliens calculated survival metrics and probability models, they failed to understand the one thing that made humans dangerous. They didn't need permission to fight back. The plan was insane. That's what everyone agreed on at first. A synchronized global strike, targeting every major alien presence on Earth at once. No room for error. No second chances. But desperation had sharpened human minds into something dangerous. And now that the pieces were falling into place, hesitation meant death. The aliens had underestimated them. This time, humanity would return the favor. The attack began in silence. No explosions, no fanfare. Just a ripple of coordinated actions spreading like wildfire across continents. In Berlin, a team of engineers activated a network of EMP devices disguised as civilian infrastructure. Cell towers, power stations, water treatment plants, all retrofitted with scavenged alien components to blend in. One by one, the alien shields flickered offline, leaving their ships vulnerable for the first time in weeks. In Nairobi, biologists injected a genetically modified virus into the soil near an alien base, designed to react with the organic parts of their tech. Within minutes, tendrils of black smoke rose from the compound as the structure collapsed in on itself, systems failing one after another. Nearby, resistance fighters armed with repurposed railguns moved in, firing salvos that tore through weakened hulls. Paris became the heart of the operation. From a hidden command center buried beneath the ruins of the city, former military strategists, rogue scientists, and civilian volunteers worked side by side. Maps flickered on screens, tracking real-time updates from every corner of the world. Tokyo, Sao Paulo, Cape Town, Sydney. Every location had its own team, its own mission, its own moment to strike. And every second counted. Then came the signal. A single pulse sent across all encrypted channels. Now, the skies lit up, not with alien fire, but with human defiance. Across the globe, railguns fired, drones swarmed, and EMPs detonated in perfect unison. Alien ships, once untouchable, buckled under the weight of coordinated chaos. Their systems glitched, their formations broke, and for the first time since the invasion began, they faltered. In New York City, a coalition of civilians and former soldiers launched the most daring part of the plan. Using stolen alien frequency codes, they hacked into a central hive ship hovering above Manhattan and fed it false data, making it believe its own forces were under attack from within. The ship responded exactly as predicted. It turned its weapons on itself. Explosions rippled across its surface as internal defenses went haywire, creating a massive distraction while ground forces targeted its core reactor. A young hacker in Santiago, barely 20, triggered the final sequence. Her hands trembled over the keyboard, but her voice was steady as she whispered, "For everyone they took." A split second later, the hive ship's reactor overloaded. The explosion lit up half the sky, sending shockwaves across the city. Cheers erupted, not just there but everywhere. The aliens tried to respond. They scrambled drones, rerouted energy, attempted countermeasures. But the damage was done. Humanity had struck as one, not as nations or ideologies, but as a species unwilling to be erased. The aliens' cold calculations hadn't accounted for this kind of unity, this kind of rage, this kind of brilliance. And as the dust settled, a new message spread across every surviving communication channel. We're not done yet. The silence that followed was not the eerie stillness of defeat, but the exhausted breath of a world that had refused to die. Smoke still hung in the air over ruined cities, and the scars of battle stretched across continents. But the alien ships were gone, scattered, disabled, or destroyed. Where once there had been only fear and fire, now there was something else: quiet determination. Survivors emerged from bunkers, basements, and hidden enclaves, blinking into the light of a changed world. The first days after the victory were chaotic. Governments struggled to re-establish control, but something fundamental had shifted. People no longer looked up to leaders for permission to act. They had already acted. They had fought. They had bled, and they had won together. In the ruins of Paris, engineers worked alongside former soldiers to restore power grids using salvaged alien tech. In Nairobi, scientists continued studying the organic components of enemy drones, hoping to unlock medical breakthroughs that could save lives instead of taking them. In Tokyo, a group of young hackers who had played a crucial role in the final assault launched an open-source initiative to protect global networks from future threats, human or otherwise. Monuments rose not to kings or generals, but to ordinary people, doctors who had treated the wounded under fire, students who had cracked encryption codes in their dorm rooms, factory workers who had repurposed machinery to build weapons overnight. Humanity had always told stories of heroes, but this time, the heroes weren't chosen by fate or prophecy. They were just people who refused to give up when the end seemed certain. And perhaps the most profound change was in how nations saw each other. Old borders still existed, but cooperation had become instinctive. Treaties were signed not out of fear or politics, but necessity. The war had proven one undeniable truth. Divided, humanity was vulnerable. United, it was unstoppable. Children grew up hearing the story of how the world came together, not as Americans, Europeans, Asians, Africans, or any single identity, but as humans. Schools taught not just history, but resilience. Engineering programs studied alien tech, not for conquest, but for progress. Military academies trained not just for defense, but for collaboration. Years passed, and Earth rebuilt itself stronger than before. The skies remained clear, but no one forgot. Every year, on the anniversary of the final strike, a global moment of silence was held, not just for those lost, but for the lesson learned. They had been given a second chance, and they would never waste it, because when the stars sent their judges, their conquerors, their gods, Humanity stood up and fought back, not with weapons alone, but with everything they had: ingenuity, courage, hope, and above all, each other.